When I talk to managers about coaching, there are two things that I never need to teach managers. I never need to teach managers what the purpose of coaching in business is. Every single manager I've ever met will tell me that the purpose of coaching in business is to raise people's performance, to bring out the potential of the people within our teams. That is its purpose. And then I ask people, so what are the prime skills that we need in order to be a decent coach in business? And people will tell me very easily. First, really knowing how to listen to people. And the second, asking great questions. Those are the two prime skills we need. Now, so far, I haven't taught you anything that you didn't know. And I'll make a prediction. If I asked any of you to take one of your guys, one of your direct reports, into a quiet room or a quiet VC and give them half an hour of really good coaching, you would do a really good job. You'd do a decent job as a coach. But how are we under pressure? Under pressure, something very different happens to us. I've met thousands and thousands of managers all around the world who are decent coaches. Some are fantastic coaches when they have time and when things are calm. But under pressure, our ability to coach seems to leave us and we become slaves to our habits. Let's just think about what happens to us when we're under pressure. People that know me well will know that I travel everywhere with my model of the brain. It's very precious to me. And you may know something about what I'm about to tell you in terms of just some fundamental neuroscience. It's very important that we just take a moment to understand exactly what happens here in our brain. You may know, for example, that actually we have three brains. We have the reptilian brain, sits at the top of our spinal column, and this just basically controls our physiology. There is no thinking that goes on in this part of the brain. This part of the brain we share with every other animal, mammal, bird on the planet. And it is the most ancient part, millions of years in evolution. Then we have this part of the brain here, the limbic system, or the mammalian brain. This is our emotional brain. And I refer to this as our survival brain. This part of our brain is solely concerned with our survival as a human being. And then we have this part of the brain here. As you can see, the largest part of the brain, the neocortex, neo for newest, the newest part of our brain. And this is the part of the brain that has really developed over the last few 100,000 years as we have developed as a species. This is the part of the brain that thinks, that has rationality, that has logic. This is the part of the brain where we are able to consciously take in information, consider it, compare it with everything we've ever known in the past, project forward all of our possibilities into the future, think about what is moral or what the core values would guide us to do, balance all of those things, balance morality with logic and rationality and process, and come to a clear conclusion. But under pressure, it is the survival part of the brain that takes over. And there is a physiological process that takes place. There's a little part of the brain here called the amygdala. And the amygdala is our radar system. The amygdala is scanning our horizon continuously for threat. And it receives information through our 5 senses. So I can detect a threat 50, 100 meters away from me before my conscious brain has really understood that. And what the amygdala does when it detects threat is it releases 2 chemicals, sends a signal to my adrenal glands, and it releases adrenaline through my body. And it releases a stress hormone called cortisol that floods my brain. Let's just talk about adrenaline for a moment. What does adrenaline actually do for us? And we're very familiar with an adrenaline rush. We know what it feels like when adrenaline is coursing through our body. Well, what adrenaline does is it raises our heart rate and it changes the way that the blood is pumped around our body. It puts that blood into our arms and our legs because we are now in fight or flight, the most ancient survival dynamic for human beings. And in fight or flight, I may need that blood in the muscles of my arms to have a fight or defend myself, or in my legs because I may need to run away very quickly. And it has to take that blood from somewhere. Well, unfortunately, one of the places it takes the blood from is the most blood-hungry organ in my body. It takes it away from my neocortex. In a moment of threat, when I'm running a very high level of adrenaline, I have no blood in my neocortex that would allow me to think calmly and rationally. And cortisol is a stress hormone that floods my brain in a moment of pressure or threat. And what cortisol does is it intensifies the focus, because at the moment I'm not quite sure where the threat is coming from. I may need to move very fast in a moment when I see the threat in my field of vision. And cortisol slows down time so that I can see the threat and physically react. And you will know from your own experience that any sort of anxiety or stress that we may feel in the moment, our amygdala picks that up as threat. Now, 100,000 years ago, this was incredibly important to us. This was survival stuff. I could be under mortal threat at any moment of the day. Well, here we are 100,000 years later, living in the digital age, and most of us are very fortunate that we are not in an atmosphere of real threat every day. In fact, what is the biggest threat that you face on a daily basis in your work? I think if you analyse that question, maybe a fear of failure, maybe a fear of letting somebody down, maybe a fear of not getting a promo or not getting the right rating. And notice that these are all threats to our ego. They are not threats to our physical well-being. And so I frequently ask managers this question. What is your worst habit as a manager when you are under pressure?